do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. Oh, and I started thinking, meaning document what you're doing so that you can delegate the tasks that drain you of energy.
Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Business Problems Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Chrysler. Each episode, we talk to business leaders and subject matter experts to learn about the challenges they've overcome and the challenges they still face. You'll hear fresh insights, real talk, and get inspiration to grow your business. Hey, everybody. So excited to be welcoming Jaime Jay to the podcast today. Jaime is the founder and managing director of Bottleneck Distant Assistants. Founded in 2016, Bottleneck is an outsourcing agency that helps businesses identify, hire, and cultivate their workforce through a carefully designed, systematic approach to growth. A U.S. veteran Army paratrooper who received the Army Achievement Medal for meritorious service, Jay's additional business experience includes a 12-year career in corporate America and advanced education in business administration and management at Florida Institute of Technology. In his latest book, Quit Repeating Yourself, author Jaime Jay shares how he built a 7-figure business by focusing on the power of creating systems and processes so he could stop doing the wrong things and focus on doing his best work. After other business professionals kept asking him to explain what he was doing differently, Jaime compiled his best strategies and systems, hoping readers could learn from his successes and his mistakes. Through personal stories and professional examples, he teaches leaders how to build a strong company foundation using small and actionable steps. Jaime, so excited to be welcoming you to the podcast today. I know that we share so much in common when it comes to systemization of business. So super thrilled to have you and have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, I've been stoked and looking forward to this. Like you said, it's almost like our minds were almost on the same wavelength when we were talking before. We were like, you finishing each other's sentences. So yeah, I dig what you're doing, man.
Yeah, same. It's, it's interesting because so often there's a lot of people that talk about this stuff, right? You could kind of find it all over the place. But the one thing that immediately struck me about our conversations and what you're doing at Bottleneck is the fact that you've lived it. You're really doing this stuff, which is what ultimately got you to the point of, writing the book and being able to talk about this stuff to other business owners. But, what was the unlock for you in terms of understanding the power of creating systems within your own business? What was that unlock for you? How did it all start?
I knew this guy named Scott Beebe, and he told me 4 or 5 years ago, do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. And I thought, at the time, I'm like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then the more I started realizing, I'm like, wait, do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it. And I started thinking, meaning document what you're doing so that you can delegate the tasks that drain you of energy. And I don't think I realized what delegation meant and the power of delegation with regards to leveraging your time up until for the first true time ever was January 5th, 2019, 2020. And what happened is my mom fell sick and she was in the hospital. So I got a call and flew out there immediately. And I told my assistant, hey, I got to go. I don't know when I'll be back. So I went out there and hung out for about 2 weeks. And then I said, okay, she's going to be okay. We'll come back. Then I was out there a little bit longer, probably about a month. And then I said, I got to get back to work. So I came back to the office and then I got a call like 2 or 3 days later from the doctor saying, when are you coming out? And I said, well, I was planning to come out next week. And he says, you might want to come out a little bit earlier. And I was like, oh, crap. So I ended up going back out there, and my mom ended up passing away March 1st, 2020.
Oh my goodness.
For the first 2 months, I did zero work. Well, very little work. And what I found was I was able to rely on the existing team. And I wasn't too trustworthy of the systems and processes because they weren't that thorough, but I just had to, I was out. I clocked out.
Yeah.
I had to focus, right? And I came back March 12th or 13th because I had to take care of some of my mom's things and, get her out of the hospital and do all that stuff. And when I got back, our company was bigger than when I'd left it. And to me, that was like the big mind explosion that systems and processes freaking work. Now they can be flawed, as they often are, but unless you can leave for a full cycle of business, meaning a full month's worth of business, where you get all the payroll in, all the other things, if that's what you're doing, you have a full cycle of business, not a week or 2 weeks, like a full cycle of business, and come back and you still have a business around, you can rest assured that it has, in large part, not all, but in large part, has a nice working system consisting of processes and workflows. And so that's when I kind of first realized, like, wow, I was able to totally focus on what mattered to me most at that moment. And everybody else felt okay. And I'll never forget it. My assistant said, Jamie, don't worry, go see your mom. We got your back.
That's awesome.
That was scary leaving, but.
Oh, I'm sure. But that's, there's so much great stuff in, I think I can spend literally an hour on just like that first couple of minutes to unpack all of what was in there. So I will try to keep it brief, but a couple of things that really stood out to me in there is, one, kind of where you opened up in terms of learning that, simple phrase of, do it like it's the last time that you're going to be doing it, and kind of where that ultimately led. Now, a couple of questions for you in terms of follow-up. So did you know when that situation happened, right? And that's kind of the litmus test for a lot of business owners. I talk about that often. Look, if you can't leave for at minimum 2 or 3 weeks, and I agree with you, the longer the better, right? But if you can't leave your business and have it continue on, by and large, you really don't have a business, right? And it doesn't matter how big your team is. It doesn't matter what your sales level is. That to me is the real litmus test of what a business is, because you have some things in place. Are they perfect? No, right? It's a process, right, to work through that. But you've got some systems, some procedures, some key people responsibility wise that can continue moving the needle. So, with that being the litmus test, when you were pulled away, what was your confidence level that it was going to continue? Like, are we talking 50-50? Are we talking like I only had, 10-15% confidence and I'm going to come back to a mess? Or at that point in time, were you already feeling confident in your processes and systems that it was going to carry you through until you were able to, kind of deal with your stuff going on and then come back into the business?
I would say I'm a lot more confident today than I was 2 years ago. Funny that it's 2 years ago that this happened.
Yeah.
However, I fully trusted my team. Now, just because we didn't have all the systems and processes in place, I knew they were going to figure out a way to get things done, even without my direction or me being there, especially in that kind of time and the need that I was asking of them.
Yeah.
And I'm so blessed that they were there. So that's first and foremost. I completely 100% unequivocally trusted everybody to get the job done or figure out how to do it. System-wise, if I had to totally rely on it, I would have probably been about 20%, like relying on this system, because systems, it's not even close to what it is today. But it was such a great learning opportunity It was a great way to poke holes. You got the pipe, the plumbing, turn the water on, see where, the leaks are. We identified a lot of leaks. And we were able to, over the course of the next couple of years. And then you know what happened in 2020, March of 2020, COVID.
Yeah.
So that presented a whole brand new slew of problems.
That was poking big old holes everywhere.
Oh my gosh. So, but we learned. Now I will say we are not recession proof, but I will say we are recession ready.
Yeah, I like that. And I like that you're honest, because from my standpoint, all of this stuff is the continuous improvement journey, right? It's a continuous process of, the plan, the execute, review, revise, repeat. Just because you've got a system in place, just because you have a documented process today, doesn't mean that something is going to change with the technology. Something is going to change where you bring on a new team member and they start asking those why questions again, during the training phase. It's like, well, why are we doing it this way? I've got this other idea. Can we try this? So to me, it's the journey, right? It's not the destination. Yes, you want to have these documented processes. Yes, you want to have the systems in place and in kind of that overarching infrastructure, but recognizing that it's a journey you're going on when you start to embark on this. And one of the key factors, and you touched on this, so I'd love to kind of dive a little bit deeper, but is that culture component. My real question is, because I think based on our conversations, I feel like you do this pretty flawlessly, but how do you give so much trust to people on your team and new people you're bringing into your organization? Because I feel like with the business owners and leadership teams that I've worked with, that is one of the key things to talk about, right? How do we give up? How do we give that trust to people? Not hey, let me, they're going to earn my trust. It's how do we give it up front and let them know that here you go, and we'll deal with the stuff that comes when it inevitably does. What was it like for you? What was that particular piece like for you?
Well, I think it's all about identifying a workflow, and I can tell you it's pretty, for me at least, it's pretty simple. What does trust give you? It's a question for you. Do you know, like, what do you feel when you have trust?
Yeah, man, it's peace of mind, right?
Confidence, right? Peace of mind,
yeah.
Confidence. So what we do, for me, to build trust, and everybody on our team, whenever they delegate a task, in order to keep that trust going right from the very beginning, is we will identify a task. And we do three things when we identify a task. We name that task, number one. Number two is we confirm what the instructions are of that task. And number three, we set up the signal of that task. So say I want to delegate a task to my assistant. Say, I want you to manage my email. And they will say, okay, Jamie, what do you want to name this task? How about email management for Jamie? Perfect. So we're naming this task email management for Jamie. By the way, I have a video on and it's being recorded right now. And so what happens is now we've done the first thing. I've already started getting a little more confidence because I heard them repeat what I said as far as, and they've also given me instruction. What do you want to name this task? Now I know, okay, they're listening. They're into this thing. I want to name it email management for Jamie. Number two is, okay, Susie or Johnny, here's exactly what I'm doing. I go into this email and I want to tag it here. And this one I want to respond to. This one I don't want to. Can we create some categories or something like that? That'd be really cool if we could do this. And maybe this is something I don't really need to pay attention to, but if I can click this little button there and you know that you're going to get to it. Like, okay, so do you see all of that? Yes, Jamie. So if I understand you correctly, you want to do this, 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 and this with your email. Is that about right? Yep, you nailed it. Oh yeah, one more thing. Don't forget this. This is okay. So I'll add that one more thing on there. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, perfect. Now all of a sudden I know that they've heard everything I said because they've repeated it. It is recorded. As soon as I'm done with that task, even if I want to record more tasks that day, I hit stop record so that we don't make the video too long so they can go back and check it. And then what's going to happen is my assistant, before we hit stop record, my assistant will say, okay, what what is your level of expectation to know that as soon as I'm done with this task, you know it's done too? What do I need to do? What's that signal? Oh, that's a great question. So as soon as you handle one of your to-dos on there, you just tag it complete. And that's the signal. I'm like, okay, do I need to send an email? Nope, just tag it complete. Oh, perfect. And then they stop recording. Okay, Jamie, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go review this video for you. I'm going to go walk through it step by step. And then when's a good time for me to schedule with you so that I can go and review this to make sure that I interpreted everything that you said was correct? And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. How about Wednesday at 10? Okay, Wednesday at 10, and be prepared. I'm going to go through this. And what I'll do is I'll have it documented for you in a Google Doc. So if you have any changes, I'll fix that for you on the fly. And then guess what? It's done. It's done. And then all of a sudden now, what am I feeling? I feel totally confident that this person knows exactly what I'm going to do. And what happens to my trust level? It jumps, it skyrockets. And now I can say, I have the confidence. This person knows what they're doing. They're freaking awesome. I'm going to delegate more responsibility to this person. That's how I go ahead and make sure that I build my trust. So that's my long story, longer answer to your, how do I build that trust initially?
No, I love the story and I love the example, because some of the best leaders take all of the responsibility, right? And that's what you did with that story, because oftentimes when you have a conversation with the leadership team and, I'm expecting people to do, this activity, that activity to ultimately earn my trust, right? And to your point about the story you just walked through and the example you just walked through, you in your mind as a leader, or really anybody, right, have an expectation, okay? And the big problem and where that trust and confidence ultimately ends up lacking is because in your mind, you have what success looks like, but you've not articulated what does success look like well to the person that you're trying to get to do the thing, right? Whatever the thing happens to be. And so what I loved about your example is that in multiple places, right, you've got that confidence building, you've got that give and take exchange, and you've got the opportunity to relay in very clear, expectations. What does success look like? What's the trigger to know that this is done? And, one of my favorite tools from a training perspective, and you touched on this a little bit, but there's a video. It's a super old video. I don't even remember exactly where I came across it, but it's literally how to fold a t-shirt. If you Google that, and I'll put it in the show notes, because it's one of my favorite go-tos, but it's how to fold a t-shirt. And it's a training video on somebody teaching somebody else how to fold a t-shirt, right? And so in your mind, you immediately know this is how I fold a t-shirt. They do it a different way. And they walk through the process of folding a t-shirt in a completely different way that you wouldn't think of, how you fold a t-shirt. But the whole point is at every kind of level of iteration, I'm giving you additional detail, another opportunity to ask questions. Then I hand it over to you. You walk through the whole entire process, explaining to me all of the key points, all of the details, and so on and so forth. And it's that give and take exchange, that becomes so powerful. So I really love that you utilize that example specifically, because again, man, just like, two minds connecting here. It's amazing. I always love it. So Jamie, let me ask you this. Why, with all the business owners that you've talked to and that people that are interested in, kind of, again, what you've done differently in the systemization piece, why do you think there are so many entrepreneurs and business owners that still struggle with creating systems and identifying opportunities to create systems within their business?
I don't think people know what they don't know what they don't know. And I think it's something, systems, it's not very sexy. Like,
hey, wait a second.
It's not like it for a lot of people. Like I've actually heard somebody, it's like systems is like nails on a chalkboard. I can't stand doing it because it's so specific, so detailed, so time consuming. And a lot of people they don't want to do that. They're so worried about the here and now and what's happening and get that sale and do this and get this. They don't understand and they don't value creating a well-oiled system enough to set one up, because it does take so long. Heck, we're building systems 2.5 years now. You build the foundation, but you got to continually, because as you grow, new input, new data that you learn, new type of clients are going to give you feedback, something else that they need. Oh, good idea. I need to do that's business, right? Fortunately for us, we have a systems administrator, and that's her sole responsibility, is continually tweaking our processes and things like that. The more data, the more input we get. But what I believe, you said there's a difference between being a business owner and owning a job. And if you don't have that system in place, you own a job. Now, maybe that's what you want, and that's cool. If you want to be the solopreneur and you really just have this little widget, or you're just doing subscriptions, or it's just something very simple, great. If you're that type of person that wants to really scale this business and look at different ideas and concepts and introduce different facets of growing this business to big levels and growing your team, or whatever that may be, it's paramount that you build a system. I would even suggest solopreneurs do this, because someone asked me, Jamie, what is your 5 and 10 year goal? And I said, well, I have no idea. I have an idea, but I have no idea what I'm doing, because I always find something. Oh, this is really cool. I'm going to go explore this. But it's really important that I build the system now, because if I want to go off in a different direction, the company still has the foundation with which it can thrive on. And other people that come in, hopefully I'm replaceable. They can come in and run this organization without me even being there, except for perhaps maybe a board or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's probably the biggest problem. People don't know what they don't know, and they don't understand or embrace the importance of why it's so critical that they have that foundational system in place.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point of view. It kind of gets back to what you said. There's nothing wrong with being, and I see it in bigger organizations too. So it's not just a solopreneur, let's call it, issue of identifying this. And to me, again, like you said, if you want to be own a job and have that type of business, have a lifestyle business, let's say something like that, that's totally cool. Just recognize that that's what you're doing. And if some unfortunate event happens, right? Because, unfortunately, none of us are getting out of this alive, right? So at some point, some unfortunate event will either permanently or temporarily pull you away from your business. Whether you are a solopreneur or you have a team of 25 or 50 people, at some point that's going to happen. So recognizing that, your business may not be able to survive depending on the length of time that you're pulled away. If you're okay with that, then there is nothing wrong with doing whatever it is you want. But if you are kind of on the opposite end and you are looking to scale your business and, to your point, be agile and look for opportunities to grow in maybe different customer verticals, different product lines, what have you, having that infrastructure in place will allow you the flexibility to explore these other things, and not be mired down in the day to day. And I'm curious to get your take on this, because I feel like a lot of people confuse systemization with, hands-off ownership and absentee ownership and not being involved in the business. And I feel like it's just the opposite. I feel like it gives you more control, more flexibility, more touches, because you've built the system around these inputs, and that allows you to have the flexibility to look at these other opportunities. What's your kind of takeaway on that?
I absolutely agree with you. I think what happens is you touched on this before, that all this stuff happens in your head as a business owner. If you don't do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it, you can't get these things out, and you can't document your thoughts, and you need to be able to do that. The second, I'm telling you, the second you document what's going on in your head, that leaves your noggin. And now you have this space that's ready for all kinds of creativity. And it allows you to kind of go out and think about other aspects of the business where you can improve certain parts of the process. You're empowering your team as well. If you have a team, you're empowering your team to improve upon those processes as well. Now that I've delegated this task, I'm not living that 100%, right? I'm now off somewhere else doing something else. But that person that's taken the responsibility with regards to that task, by the way, this is also somebody that should be generating a lot of energy because it's something they really like doing, but they're living there and they might start seeing things like, ooh, I can improve this. By giving them the opportunity to make their own decision. And by the way, they make their own decisions with three things in mind. Number one, is it good for the business? Number two, is it good for the team? And number three, is it good for the client? Because if the business isn't healthy, culturally and financially, how in the world are we going to take care of our team and support our team? And if our team members aren't happy, how are we not going to take care of our clients? So we give that person that we're delegating that task to a certain level of responsibility. And boy, that motivates them. That empowers them to, oh my gosh, it was my decision to come up with that. It was my idea. And I'm like, yes, it sure was. Good job. Yeah. Now all of a sudden you have that system kind of taking on a life of its own. Now I'm not worried about that. That's not what's that's not what's keeping me up at night, right? Now I'm focusing on, well, man, now I have an opportunity to maybe, help create this commercial, or maybe I have an opportunity to create, the theme of the month for April, national, I think it's National Stress Awareness Month. What could we do with that? Like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of cool stuff that we can do. So I think that's a really good example of what happens when you start documenting and when you start creating systems in your business. Now, you can be an absentee owner if you want to, but this is, in my opinion, exactly the opposite of what I want to be doing, right? So we have a provocative point of view that says, stop focusing on the wrong things so you can do your best work. And basically what that means is stop doing all the stuff that's taking away the creative element that you have, the inspirational element that you want to bring to the organization. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, I like to talk about the collective brain power of your team, right? And that's really what you touched on from my standpoint. And the other thing is, that I see, right? Often business owners, they start a business because they're really good at the thing, right? Whatever the thing is. So let's fill that blank in. But over the course of time, as you get mired down into those day-to-day operations and you've not thought through how to engage people, how to empower them, how to systemize, and you look at it from the lens of saying, geez, I'm really the only one that can do XYZ, right? Which we all know is just laughable. But we have said that, I have said that. I'll raise my hand. Early on in my leadership days, I would say things like that. And, but my whole point is that when you start there and then you kind of get mired down in that creativity starts to fade, and therefore your business growth starts to stagnate. Your financials are probably starting to be impacted. Culturally, if you were to take a pulse on the culture within your organization, you probably wouldn't rank super high at that point, right? So those are kind of the symptoms that you can start to see around you. And that is the perfect opportunity, as you said, to start to document, get things out of your head. What does success look like? Like that to me is one of my key questions, because so often we have this idea of what's the result I'm going after, but we just keep it in our mind. And then we measure everything to what's in our mind, but we never actually say it out loud. We never put it on paper. And it's like, how unfair is that to the people around you? Get it out of your head, onto paper, on a whiteboard, wherever, just spit it out and you're going to be further ahead. Guarantee it,
Absolutely. One thing too, people always wonder, where do I start doing systems? Even if you don't have anybody hired, just start recording. Yeah. Hop on when you're doing your tasks. The next time you're going to do it, do something the last time you're ever going to do it, and start building a library of delegatable tasks. So just start building it. Even if you have no plans to hire somebody, you don't have the wherewithal, start doing it like that. That would be my advice. Start doing it today. Take probably the super easy thing, one of the most simplest things, and start getting a process down for how to extract this data out of your head, and then start doing a couple. And all of a sudden, before you know it, you have a system in place on how to create a workflow, and it starts coming to you. And by the time you're sitting there and you have 20, 30 videos down, you're like, wow, I can now see how it's going to be beneficial for me to bring somebody on to support me in delegating this. Or now, even if you have somebody on, now I can clearly delegate this. So those people that don't know what they don't know, and they don't understand the importance of that, will soon realize how much stuff they really don't need to be messing with in their business.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are so many, we tend, right, as just in general as people, we tend to overcomplicate things. And that introduces roadblocks to us, and therefore it gives us a perfect opportunity to procrastinate. But there are so many tools available, and you've touched on it a couple of times. I love the video walkthrough of process documentation. Mm-hmm. There is a time and a place to have a written record of that as well. But for ease of use, from a training perspective, for new team members, to just get something out, right? Video is by far the way to go. So I love that you've kind of called that out several times. And again, we don't have to do, can you get really fancy equipment and tools? 100% you can. You can make things as, high production quality as you want. But can you also use a bunch of free tools that are out there available? Yes, you can. So there is literally no excuse to not get this stuff documented. Yeah, Loom is free for, I think, up to 5 minutes. That's one of my favorites. The other thing that I really use or like to use is called Airtable. I don't know if you guys use Airtable. So
we don't use it, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. So for anybody that's out there that's looking for a centralized organization tool, the Airtable would be a perfect fit for that. So you can take Loom videos, you can basically document and categorize them in Airtable. It's super searchable. It's like it's a database online for ease of explanation. So Jaime, man, we are running a little bit low on time already. And like I said, literally I could talk to you for hours, but I'd love to, two things. I got one thing that is a bit out there, but I remember it's something you told me. And I just love this idea. So I want you to just quickly explain it to us. But I know as a group, you guys kind of nominate a word that inspires you throughout the year. So what's that? Where did that come from? Because I think that's such a cool idea to rally people around. And it's not something that's, hey, we can have our mission statement, our culture, our values, but where did that idea come from? Because I really love it. And it's unique. I've not seen that in a lot of places.
Yeah, I don't know how we came up with it. I forgot where the genesis of it came to be, but I really wanted to come up with an annual theme. And so we've come up since I believe 2018 or so, we've come up with a word of the year. I'm getting ready next month to launch our word of the year for 2022. So I can't wait to launch that one. But we did, the first one was focus, finding opportunities by creating uninterrupted strategy sessions, and focus, intently on your, I get into it. And that was a big part of setting up our systems and processes, focus on that and focus on our goals and our objectives. And then the next year we were like, man, I talk a lot. I really have to learn how to listen, because I learned so much more when I listen intentfully and soulfully to engage notably. And then kindness is huge with us, and also implement. So last year was our big year after COVID hit. We wanted to implement against our entire infrastructure. We reimagined it. We came up with a new category, distant assistant versus virtual assistant, and we needed to implement against that. So every year we take a word that is like our main underlying theme, and then you can go to our website and you can look up, word of the year for, implement or kindness. And then each one of the letters has a word associated with it, like focus, finding opportunities by creating uninterrupted strategy sessions. And I go into, what does focus really mean to us? And I just think it's a really neat thing to kind of kind of do, because it brings everybody together, and we all have that reoccurring theme each year. And so, yeah, that's why we did it.
That's awesome. And you told me before, you guys vote on them, right? Like you guys kind of have some nominee words, and then you guys collective. I just, it's such a cool idea. And like I said, this is what culture is. This is how culture is the result of all of the effort and the work and the conversations and the meetings and all of this, right? This is what culture really is. It's not a pretty mission statement. It's not, company values. It can be those things, but it's really the result of the hard work and the dedication and engaging and empowering people. And so I thought that was so important, and just such a cool thing that you guys do that really, sets you guys apart. So final thoughts, man, when it comes to systemizing your business, anything that we didn't cover that you think is important that we should wrap up with?
One thing you just mentioned, culture, and I can pretty much sum culture up in one word: behavior. How do people behave towards your objectives, towards your goals? Ultimately, if you have everybody on the team, while they might go about it different ways, which is really good, there are differing of opinions, new ideas, but even everybody on the team fighting towards that vision, the behavior that you see within the organization is pretty freaking amazing, and it's very positive. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote Quit Repeating Yourself, was so that you can figure out that through delegation and empowerment, you can build an amazing culture and an amazing team, and get everybody on the same page. And I think communication is key. And that's why we like choosing words of the year, because we're able to communicate on the same tone, on the same level with everybody. Now, we do have an org chart. There is hierarchy. However, we operate the business in a single line, right? So that'd probably be my remarks to leave and end up your awesome podcast with, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, such a pleasure, Jamie. And I think that's a pretty epic way to wrap things up. So I will put everything in the show notes, but for those of you that are watching, here is a copy of Jamie's book. And again, I will make sure that there is a link to purchase that. Really recommend getting it, reading through it. It's got so much great information in there, much further than what we took this conversation today. But Jamie, thank you so much for taking your time and coming on the Everyday Business Problems podcast.
Thank you so much for listening today. If we brought you any value, please rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. Also, be sure to connect with us on social media by searching @The Chrysler Club. Until next week, I'm your host, Dave Chrysler.